Hello everyone, it's Ma'am Jen once again, and do you know what time is it? It's time for happy learning. Are you ready to unlock another adventure in the discovery of the English language? Then let's get started. Today you will learn about using conditionals in expressing arguments. And at the end of the topic, you will be able to differentiate conditionals and arguments, identify the parts of conditionals and arguments, and transform conditionals into arguments. But before that, let us first see if you are ready to tease your brain. I want you to complete this statement in your English notebook. If I were a billionaire, I will give you 1 minute to do it. Time is up. What is your answer? If you were a billionaire, what would you do? Let us see some of your classmates' answers.
If I were a billionaire, I would make a difference by giving donation to the needy.
If I were a billionaire, I would build a beautiful house for my parents.
Very good. I'm so impressed with you, class. Keep it up. In our previous lessons, you learned that conditionals are statements that express the result of a particular condition using an if or when clause and a result clause, just like in the following examples. If I were a billionaire, I would build a beautiful house for my parents. If I were a billionaire, I would make a difference by giving donations to the needy. You also learned that there are 4 types of conditionals, namely zero conditional, first conditional, second conditional, and third conditional. Always remember that a zero conditional is formed using if or when plus present tense of the verb in the if clause and a present simple tense in the result clause. In the first conditional, we form it by using if or when plus present tense of the verb in the if clause and will plus base form of the verb in the result clause. In the second conditional, we use if plus simple past tense in the if clause and would plus base form of the verb in the result clause. And lastly, the third conditional is formed by using if plus past perfect tense in the if clause and would have plus past participle in the result clause. Now remember that the 2 parts of a conditional sentence are the if clause and the main clause, and you should not confuse them with their other similar terms. The if clause is also known as the condition or the situation for the occurrence of a particular result. It is also a dependent clause because it cannot stand alone. Also, it is called an antecedent. Later, you will learn more about an antecedent. The main clause is also called a result clause. It is the occurrence after a certain situation. Also, it is called an independent clause, which means that it can stand alone and it has a complete thought. It is also called a consequent, which later you will learn more about. Take note that conditional sentences express a particular situation as a condition for the occurrence of another situation, and that they may be used in persuading or convincing others to move or act and even change their point of view or thoughts about an issue. This time, let us dig deeper into the use of conditionals. We can use conditionals when we are expressing an argument. Perhaps we may be using this already in our day-to-day lives, but we are not just aware about it. So, what is an argument? According to Oxford Languages, an argument is an exchange of opposite views with the aim of persuading others that an action or idea is right or wrong. An argument is composed of a premise and a conclusion. A premise is a statement in an argument that provides reason or support for the conclusion. Remember that there can be one or many premises in a single argument. A conclusion is a statement in an argument that indicates of what the arguer is trying to convince the reader or listener. It answers the question, what is the argument is trying to prove. Take note that there can be only one conclusion in a single argument. Look at the following example. Waking up early allows one to be more productive. Chi-Chi always wakes up early. Therefore, Chi-Chi can be more productive. This is an example of an argument. Can you point out where the premise and conclusion are? That's right. The first two statements are the premises and the last one is the conclusion. This argument can be stated using a conditional. How can we do it? When you use a conditional to state an argument, the antecedent clause functions as the premise and the consequent clause functions as the conclusion. Look at the following example. If waking up early allows one to be more productive, and Chi-Chi always wakes up early, then Chi-Chi can be more productive. In this statement, if waking up early allows one to be more productive, and Chi-Chi always wakes up early, is called the antecedent clause. What is an antecedent clause? An antecedent clause is the premise, the condition on which the conclusion will be based. It should be sufficient and true to be considered valid. So here it is. It is clearly seen that the premise in the argument is the antecedent clause in the conditional statement. In this part of the statement, then Chi-Chi can be more productive, is called the consequent clause. What is a consequent clause? A consequent clause is the conclusion which takes place because of the premise. It also must be true to establish its validity. Going back to our examples, in the argument you have there the two premises which are called an antecedent clause in the conditional statement, and the conclusion which is called consequent clause in the conditional statement. The two premises in the argument which are waking up early allows one to be more productive, and Chi-Chi always wakes up early, both provide reason or support for the conclusion. Therefore, Chi-Chi can be more productive is what the arguer is trying to prove out of the premises stated. Looking at the conditional statement, we can see the pattern of the use of if and then. So you should not confuse between an argument and a conditional statement. And now let's practice what you have learned. I guess you are ready. Let's see. You will transform the following arguments to conditional. Then identify each part of the argument and conditional. I will give you 5 minutes to do it, and your timer starts now. Time is up. Let us now check your answers. For the first item, under argument it says, studying the lessons improves one's academic performance. Cha-Cha studies her lessons. Therefore, Cha-Cha can improve her academic performance. If we transform this to conditional, it will be like this. If studying the lesson improves one's academic performance, and Cha-Cha studies her lessons, then she can improve her academic performance. Now let's check if you were able to identify the parts. In the argument, this part here is called the premises, and this one is the conclusion. In the conditional statement, we have here the antecedent, and this one is the consequent. For the second item, under argument it says, strict observance of the health protocols helps stop the spread of coronavirus. Choo-Choo strictly observes the health protocols. Therefore, Choo-Choo can help stop the spread of coronavirus. If we transform this to conditional, it will be like this. If strict observance of health protocols helps stop the spread of coronavirus, and Choo-Choo strictly observes it, then she can help stop the spread of coronavirus. Now let's check if you were able to identify the parts. In the argument, this part here is called the premises, and this one is the conclusion. In the conditional statement, we have here the antecedent, and this one is the consequent. Awesome! You did a great job in this task. Now, before you answer the test, please remember the following about argument and conditionals so as to avoid confusion. Remember that an argument consists of a premise and a conclusion, while a conditional statement is made of an antecedent clause and a consequent clause. Do not forget that a conditional statement follows the if or when, then format. Take note that a conditional by itself is not an argument. In an argument, to prove something, you have to make sure that all its parts are valid and true, while this is not necessary in the conditional statement. For example, in the conditional statement, you may say, "If Chuchu wins as the president, I will eat a whole cow." This statement shows that neither the antecedent nor the consequent is true, and it sounds like you are betting on something and is like not to be taken seriously. But this should not be in an argument, because in an argument, you have to make sure that your premises and conclusions justify one another to make it valid. If you want to prove something, you have to make sure that your premises are valid and true. Conditionals can be part of an argument, as in this example. If you study your lessons, then you will pass. If you pass, then you will graduate. Therefore, if you study your lessons, you will graduate. So that's it! Today you learned so much about using conditionals in expressing arguments. And this time, it is your turn to answer the test. This is what you will do. Read the following conditionals and transform them into arguments. Write your answers in your learning activity sheet. Congratulations for being able to unlock another learning in the discovery of the universal language. Till next time, have a great day!